keep your cameras off and microphones off unless speaking to an item. Can we start the live stream, please? Tēnā koutou katoa nau mai ki te hui o Kumiti i te Arawaka i tēnei rā. Welcome everyone to today's Traffic Subcommittee meeting. It's the last one of this year. The opening emergency procedures are on screen. We will start with our opening formalities, karakia timatanga. It's on the screen. Please join me in karakia. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, e hi aki ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, tihei, mauri ora. Item number 2, there is an apology from Councillor Tupou. Can I move the motion that the apology be received from Councillor Tupou, be accepted and a leave of absence granted? Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Barrett. Put the motion which has been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please say aye. Anyone against, say no. I declare that motion carried. We do have somebody in public comment, and I'd like to welcome to the table Grant Rutherford, who's here to speak on item 6A on the Esplanade car park and the mobility spaces being installed. Welcome to the table, Grant. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Am I on? Thank you for allowing me to speak. On behalf of Wheels and Canes in the Valley, we are always pushing for disability car parks. It's good to hear that they're doing more for Petone, and we'll be checking to see how it goes later on. But also, there is some in the valley that need checking. I was able to get the one outside Nainai Library moved because it was a curved one and no car could actually get into it. So they moved it back one space. That was fine. With the, sorry I say it the wrong way, the old post office, because I know it so well, there's 2 disabled parks there, but there's a lot of people parked there who deliver parcels to around the shops, and it stops the disabled people from parking there. On following up of that, around the new pool, we have not seen or heard of what is going on there for disabled car parks. We would like to know, because we have a few that come in vans and like to be dropped off, and if you have a straight parallel park, it's very awkward for a disabled to get out of the back of the van. And if you go down to the car park where they want us to go, it's a long way to walk up to the front door. So we would like to be advised of what is actually going on there. Because we have pushed for a lot of things around Nainai. and that's one of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant, and thank you for your advocacy for disabled users. It was my understanding that you had been spoken to about what's occurring around Te Nainai, which is, as you know, is opening up fairly soon. And I was just thinking about your reference to Te Mako. I would have thought that the new fines that are there for people parking in disability spaces may have prevented some of that parking. But anyway, it's something that we'll take into account. So thank you for that. Members, does anybody have any questions? Councillor Mitchell.
Just a question for you, Chair, because there's no paper in front of us around Nainai Pool today, but could officers please respond to that particular item?
Fair comment. If Paul, if you could just respond to Grant's questions, please.
I won't bite.
Thank you. With respect to Nainai Pool, to Nainai, I don't have the plans immediately in front of me, but there has been an allowance for mobility parking at the sort of the front, near the front entrance to the swimming pool. From memory, there's some indented mobility parks, too, thank you, running, parallel to the footpath. And I believe there's also a angled mobility park as well, both at by the path, I suppose, to the front entrance of the swimming pool, which I guess is as close as they could practically get to the entrance to the swimming pool. There's also talk around the basically enforcement of mobility parking. You talk about around Nainai and the Te Mako Centre. I believe there has been an increased presence of enforcement officers recently near Te Mako in the car parks around Nainai, because there has been issues, not so much in the mobility space, but just around people regularly overstaying in the 60-minute car parks there as well. So as best as possible, enforcement officers have had an increased presence in Nainai.
Thank you.
Question, Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, just a question around the enforcement of parking in mobility parks. We now have a vehicle with cameras on it that's circulating and noting where cars are parked around our city. Is that integrated with the mobility pass system so it can identify vehicles that shouldn't be in mobility parks?
I don't know the answer to that. I'll have to come back to you, Councillor.
Sorry, a little bit difficult because we're speaking to an item that's not on our agenda, but I'll allow that to happen because it's nice to see you here, Grant, for your advocacy. I've got a question here from Councillor Barrett.
Kia ora, Chair, and I'm just going to go off a wee bit off the tangent as well, and I just want to tautoko what has already been said, but and just to say also that in my trips around the central Hutt, I've noticed that there is a lot of illegal parking from people, especially around Animates, around the mall and so forth, that are using disability parks. Thank you. Using disability parks when they're not able or not supposed to do so. Also, and I will take on board what Grant has said around Te Mako as well, that has been very noticeable. So I know that there is police presence there now, and I'm just making this into a question. I know that there is police presence now. Are we going to be more vigilant in making sure that this is not just going into the Nainai region, but will also be going all over the Hutt, that we are having more of a presence?
Through you, Chair. Thank you. So just a couple of things on that. We'll pass on the request to our parking enforcement team to make sure that they are targeting that. Early days with the camera in the vehicle, so they're working through how they're operating things. So we'll definitely pass that back because I completely agree. Just looking at the map from the previous traffic subcommittee, and there looks to be 4 mobility parks, 3 outside the front, just across the road from Te Nainai, and 1 just in the new car park off to the side. So there's a 2 and a 1 out the front, and then 1 in the side car park, if my eyes are not deceiving me. So
Thank you, Madam Chair, for your indulgence.
I saw the pram. I thought it was
Any other questions for Grant? No. Thank you very much for your time, Grant, and appreciate you coming in to advocate for all disabled users in the Hutt. Appreciate that.
Thank you. The talk of that camera, maybe you should also check the Stokes Valley Library. There's a van that parks there 8 hours a day and belongs to one of the shop owners around the corner. I won't say his name because I'm not that sort of person, but it's parked in an electrified area and it's there all day long. So
Thank you for that, Grant. I'm a Stokes Valley resident, so I'll keep an eye out for what you said. Thank you very much. Right, we're moving on to item number 4. We have a presentation on the process for the implementation of broken yellow lines and safety settings delegation. And we have a verbal update from Head of Transport Paul Hewitt and Traffic Engineering Manager Evandro Shearer. If you'd like to come to the table, please.
Kia ora. Our transport team is here today to share with the committee a change to implement the process of delegated authority, which is also known as DA. The delegated authority is a legal document very similar to a traffic resolution that gives power for council to make changes across the city without the need to undertake public consultation where safety is the key priority. At Hutt City Council, this process it did exist in the past. However, the changes in the past were broader, and we aim to limit the process to give way and stop controls without the need to undertake public consultation to mitigate crash likelihoods for broken yellow lines within 6 meters of an intersection. For broken yellow lines outside of driveways, also for BYLs outside crossings, such as on refuge islands, and also around bends when visibility is a major constraint. In terms of the benefit of streamlining the process, one of them is that the process it's simple and quickly to implement when compared to the process of traffic resolution. For context, it takes approximately 5 months from the moment that a request is logged to us to the moment that the traffic resolution is approved. So on some situations, we may be able to streamline the process to 2 months. We see that to be as a main benefit. We see also the process to be less bureaucratic when compared to the process of traffic resolution, and also as a way to improve safety and reduce enforceability needs. What we would like to do in terms of the process change would be, as I said, to limit for situations where safety is a major issue, and we would still liaise with direct affected property owners. And also with local boards, we would provide them with an inform of where we would be installing those restrictions without the need to undertake broader consultation. And we also plan to attach to this committee a list of locations where we would have implemented the broken yellow lines and stop controls without the need to undertake public consultation. I'm happy to answer for any questions.
Thank you, Vandra. It's a little bit difficult for us when we don't have this report in front of us to consider, but just what I'm getting from this is obviously we're going to streamline the process, make it quicker. Where safety is an issue, you're going to go out to community, talk to relevant people, right people. Where there's, if you just put it in broken yellow lines where safety is not an issue, they'll just be done. Is that what you're saying? Without having to go through the 5-month formal process?
Yeah. So just to clarify, in terms of the broken out lines, the restrictions would be mostly where we have an intersection, so within 6 meters of an intersection, outside of driveways, and also directly outside of crossing and refuge islands, given that in the New Zealand transport rule, it is illegal to park within intersections outside of driveways and outside of crossing facilities. That's the reason why we would like to undertake the process of delegated authority only on these situations. In all other situations, we would continue to have the regular traffic resolution process.
So anytime broken yellow lines are put out, they will still come to this committee, but a lot of them will be retrospective.
Correct.
Okay. Members, do we have any questions? Councillor Dyer.
Just to clarify, you would still come to the committee retrospectively for a retrospective approval, or you would just get on and do it and it wouldn't even come back to the committee?
That's for discussion. The idea would be to provide to the committee an update of retrospective broken lines that we would have installed.
But we wouldn't need to approve them, or we couldn't then change them or anything. It would be done. It would just be more of a noting paper.
Correct, given that these restrictions are covered in the road code.
Cool. And then my second question was, you mentioned consulting with the local boards. I'm sure you mean the community boards. What about the rest of the city that doesn't have community boards?
Yeah, that's a fair call. What we plan to do in terms of the process is to consult with the ones directly impacted. For example, if you would live at a specific intersection as the affected property owner, you would be consulted on. There are some locations where we don't have a community board, so in these situations we would provide with an update here to the committee of the changes that we would have implemented.
All the layers of consultation with the community and changing and tweaking designs and going back to them, all that would still be exactly the same. The only real change is you wouldn't be coming to this committee for sort of the rubber stamp for these some really easy broken yellow line installation.
Correct, yeah.
Are there any other questions, councillors? Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, happy to approve of this in principle. I guess my concern would be where residents don't agree with what's proposed, and also happy for officers to go ahead and do what they think is right. But I guess I just question whether, as a safety net, those ones could be brought to the committee to be decided on by this committee if officers feel that's more helpful to them than having to make the decision for themselves. Only the ones if a neighbour said, no, I don't want it there, or it's too close to my driveway, or whatever it is, if there was a mechanism there. But I'm happy either way, but I just kind of putting that out there as an offer, I guess. If the more contentious ones you wanted to save to bring to this committee, I think we'd be happy to do that.
Thank you. We are happy to proceed with that process of traffic resolution when there will be opposition from property owners.
I tend to agree with Councillor Mitchell. Yeah, I think where there is a contentious issue, it might be best to be brought before us, to share the load of the decision. And I think that sounds great, and also really pleased to see there's going to be quite a bit of streamlining to this process, so that will certainly speed things up. Thank you very much. Any other questions? No. Councillor Dyer? Yeah,
just a matter of process. What's the next stage now? Do you create a report to us to relinquish those delegations and that comes to us or full council? Or is, I'm assuming it's just a presentation, so we're not making decisions now. What's the next step?
The next step would be to work on a template on how the delegated authority would look like. I'm happy to share a copy of how the process would look like, and we can start the implementation of the road markings.
Councillor, through you, Madam Chair, we'll bring a paper back at the next meeting, which February or March, whenever that is, because I think it's probably, as well as a paper formally documenting what we're doing, the types of scenarios like Councillor Mitchell and yourself have raised. I think there needs to be very clear as to what's happening when, and then what stages things come back. So we'll look to that, the first meeting of the new year.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item number 5, conflict of interest declarations. I call on members to declare any conflicts of interest that you may have in relation to the items on the agenda. Councillor Barrett.
Madam Chair, I just want to note that I will be speaking on, I think it's the next item, proposed mobility parking restrictions on the Esplanade, because I actually work for a disabled network.
Thank you for that. Item number 6, recommendations to Te Kaune Herera or Te Awa Kairangi Council for the 10th of December 2024. And we're going to start with paper A, proposed mobility parking restriction, the Esplanade Car Park Petone. It's on page 6 of your agenda. And Paul Hewitt and Evandro Sierra are already at the table. If you'd like to speak to the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. This resolution is for the conversion of 3 existing P120 parking spaces on the Esplanade to be converted into 2 P120 mobility parking spaces that will be designated at all times. Council officers received a request from a wheelchair user for the inclusion of the mobility parks at this location, as shown in the appendix, to improve access to the walkway and the reserve. The car park currently has approximately 19 P120 restricted car parks and a number of marked and unmarked unrestricted car parking spaces with no mobility parking at this location currently. Consultation following visits by the council officers, proposed location was identified that appeared to give best access to the walkway and the reserve. And consultation on the proposal, which was initially 1 mobility park, was undertaken between the 27th of August and the 10th of September 2024. 36 letters were distributed to the nearby businesses and properties, as well as on parked cars that were using the car park. CCS Disability was also consulted with, and it was through the consultation with CCS, it was identified that 2 car parks would be a preferred proportion given the number of car parking spaces currently available. There were no other responses received subsequent to the letter drops. The recommendation has also been presented to the Petone Community Board, who have endorsed this recommendation. We're happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions? Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for taking on board the feedback from CCS Disability. Just looking at the aerial photograph, there's quite a lot of quite tightly spaced bollards around those car parks as well. I wondered if that was an issue that was raised at all.
Thank you, Councillor. Through the Chair. Yes, we will have, as we paint in the mobility parks, we will have to move one of the bollards out slightly, albeit there will be some leeway in the painting as well, but just to make sure car doors, etc., can fully open, one of the bollards will need to be manoeuvred.
Yeah, it's the car doors, but also people getting chairs and things out of their vehicles. So just wanted to check that had been addressed. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? I move the motion that the subcommittee recommends that Council 1 receives and notes the information, approves the conversion of 3 times P120 parking spaces into 2 times P120 at all times mobility parking at the Esplanade Car Park Petone, attached as Appendix 1 to the report. Rescinds any previous resolutions pertaining to traffic controls made pursuant to any bylaw to the extent that they conflict with the traffic controls described in this recommendation, and 4 notes that this matter will take effect when the traffic control devices that evidence the restrictions described in this recommendation have been installed. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Barrett. Is there any debate? Councillor Barrett.
Yeah. Look, I have a lot of respect for the work that has happened here, and I am certainly fully in agreement with this. My only concern is that I'd like it noted, please, that 36 letters are not enough. We have a lot of, in Petone where I work, there are a lot of disabled users there. There are a lot of disabled groups there. And, you know, up as far as Elizabeth Street, where I'm a manager there for a particular business. We would have liked to have known about this. We would have liked to have been consulted. And I think the greatest thing that we're getting from disability users, and we've heard from Mr. Robertson today, is that, you know, not enough people are consulted on the things that are actually happening around our area. So while this is a great result, please don't get me wrong, this is a great result. May I just ask, please, that we have a more robust consultation with people that are within the disabled sector, on, especially on roading networks and so forth. Thank you.
And I tend to agree with Councillor Barrett that that would be much appreciated if we can go out to those user groups, especially just to make sure that they're talked through with as well. So I now put the motion, which has been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please say aye. Those against say no. I declare the motion carried. We're on to item B, proposed time limit parking, Gear Street and Petone Avenue, Petone. If you have any comments to make to add to this paper, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this resolution is for the introduction of the conversion of the redundant motorcycle parking to be converted to 3 P60 parking spaces outside number 20 Gear Street, as well as the conversion of existing broken yellow lines at a redundant vehicle crossing also at 20 Gear Street to be converted into 3 P60 parking spaces. Towards to Petone Ave, we've identified some existing broken yellow lines that we propose to convert into 2 P120 parking spaces, which are opposite number 6 Petone Ave. This is in relation to the change of use of number 20 Gear Street. Previously, this was a motorcycle showroom and repair shop. It is now a cafe cum restaurant. So the motorcycle use has changed, and the general use of the area around the building has changed considerably. We have included, and I would note, a recommendation to change the parking configuration at number 10 Gear Street as part of this paper. We have since learnt that there is a consent that has been approved for number 10 Gear Street to change the parking configuration for the use of a roller door at this building. This came to light after this paper had been submitted, and we council officers weren't aware of this consent, so we'd ask that that recommendation not be taken forward, as the change of parking outside number 10 will come through as part of the consent at a later date. There has been a bit of correspondence as well from the owner at number 10 regarding the use of broken yellow lines and how what they mean in traffic law. Evandro will be meeting with the owner of number 10 on Monday next week to clarify that. A question was also asked regarding the use of the motorcycle parking and what had been done in terms of identifying the actual use of the park by motorbikes. A full study of this hasn't been undertaken, but during the process of this resolution, council officers visited the site on 3 occasions, and on those 3 occasions there were no motorbikes using those car parks. We've also received feedback from parking services, parking enforcement, that they are regularly ticketing cars parking in the motorcycle parking, and that's one of the routes that we've also become aware of the issue on Gear Street. So yes, consultation was undertaken between the 26th and the 10th of September 2024, covering approximately 100 metres around the site. 33 letters were delivered to residents and businesses, as well as on parked vehicles on Gear Street and Petone Ave. One response was received, which was in opposition to the proposal. This was from number 10, who is looking at broken yellow lines in the usage, which will be cleared up going forward. Happy to take any questions.
Just a quick one from me, Paul. Was this run by the Petone Community Board as well?
Sorry, Chair, yes, it was. And they endorsed it.
Any questions? No, so I'll take on board your recommendation that item number 2 be removed due to the resource consent currently in place. I would move the motion that the subcommittee recommends that Council 1 receives and notes the information. In fact, if we can put these recommendations up on the screen, just so it's clear. There it is, the removal of item number 2. The subcommittee recommends that Council receives and notes information 1. Item number 2 is removed. The next number 2 approves the conversion of the redundant motorcycle parking and the existing broken yellow lines into 3 times new P60 Monday to Friday 8 to 6 parking spaces outside 20 Gear Street, Petone, is attached in Appendix 1 to the report. Number 3 approves the conversion of the redundant vehicle crossing into 2 times P60 Monday to Friday 8 to 6 parking spaces outside 20 Gear Street, Petone, is attached to Appendix 1. Number 4 approves the conversion of the redundant broken yellow lines vehicle crossing into 2 times P120 parking spaces opposite 6 Petone Ave, Petone, as attached in Appendix 1. Number 5 rescinds any previous resolutions pertaining to traffic controls made pursuant to any bylaw to the extent that they conflict with the traffic controls described in this recommendation. And 6 notes that this matter will take effect when the traffic control devices that evidence restrictions described in this resolution have been installed. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Mitchell, is there any debate? Put the motion, which has now been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please say aye. Anyone against? I declare the motion carried. Thank you. On to number C, proposed time-limited parking, Matuhi Street, Tirohanga, Raphael House, Rudolph Steiner School, page 23 of the agenda. If you'd like to speak to the paper, please.
Thank you, Chair. This paper is for the resolution for the introduction of 3 P10 parking spaces outside 27 Matuhi Street. They will operate between 8:15 a.m. and 9:15 a.m. and then 2:45 p.m. To 3:45 p.m. Monday to Friday during school time. The council has received a request from Raphael House, the Rudolph Steiner School, to install time-limited parking to aid and improve the safety around drop-off and pick-up time. Following an assessment of the area by council officers and discussion with the school, it was proposed that 3 P10 time-limited parking spaces would be introduced with time limits that balance the needs of the drop-off and pick-up times, as well as enabling unrestricted parking outside of those particular times. All current parking at the school is unrestricted, which has caused some difficulties with caregivers who are dropping off and picking up children from the school. The recommended parking configuration is as shown in Appendix 1 on page 26. Consultation was undertaken between the 28th of August and the 11th of September 2024, covering a catchment area of approximately 100 metres around the location of the school. 30 consultation letters were delivered to the residents as well as to the school. There were no responses received. Happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions? Councillor Parkin.
Through you, Chair. There's a vehicle parked in the image just to the left of the 3 car parks between the what appears to be a bus stop. Is that a valid car park? And if so, should we actually be including that car park in the drop-off zone? Because it seems redundant to have a car park that is permanent next to the ones that are temporary or time restricted for 10 minutes.
I can confirm that's not a car park facility, and the space should be used for buses to exit from the bus stop. In terms of the car being parked there, I'm not aware of the reason behind the parked vehicle from the image.
Are there any other questions? Councillor Dyer.
Yeah, just a question around the times that are on the signs. I know some schools around the Hutt have slightly different times and stuff. Is the school and the kindergarten, they're seeing that and they're happy with these signs, with these time periods?
Yes, so we have been trying to apply consistency on the P10 time-limited parkings during school pickup drop-off hours. The 8:15 to 9:15 a.m. and 2:45, 3:45 p.m. Have been the standard that we have been implementing, and this covers the periods of pickup and drop-off of the school.
Just to clarify, so is the school seen and the kindergarten seeing these hours and that aligns with whatever time the kindergarten and the school closes? I know the consistency is fine, but have they seen these and they're both
Yes,
happy?
they have received the plans and they have not provided feedback. We have engaged previously with the school directly.
Councillor Parkin.
Sorry, just to clarify, you said they haven't provided feedback?
They have not provided feedback in the consultation. We have engaged with the school before consultation.
I can see you thinking further, Councillor Parkin.
Yeah, sorry, Chair, I just request that we actually have confirmed with the school that this is exactly what they want and they're happy with, rather than us going out and...
Sorry, through you, Chair. In the discussions with the school, these times were proposed, and as a result of the conversations with the school, we then put this out for consultation with these times on, and that's when they didn't reply. We didn't receive any further feedback from the school. So in the initial conversations with the school, these were the times that were proposed for the car parking, and with the number of car parks that were discussed, and consultation then subsequently went out after the conversations with the school, and we didn't receive any feedback from the school as part of that consultation.
Any other questions? I move the motion that the subcommittee recommends that council approves items number 1 to 4. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Barrett, is there any debate? I now put the motion, which has been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please say aye. Those against say no. I declare the motion carried. Thank you. Item D, broken yellow lines, no stopping at all times, Tane Street, Tocker Street, Service Lane, Taita. It's page 30 of the agenda. If you'd like to speak to this one, please.
Thank you, Chair. This report seeks the approval for the installation of broken yellow lines, no stopping at all times, restrictions in the Tocker Street cul-de-sac, which is shown on Appendix 1 on page 33. Council officers have received a request from parking enforcement and business owners, as well as waste management, to improve the accessibility and the manoeuvrability of large vehicles at the area shown in the appendix. Council officers have visited the site and conducted some vehicle tracking checks, which concluded that any vehicles parking in the cul-de-sac would inhibit the turning of large vehicles. Consultation on the proposed layout took place between the 28th of August and the 11th of September 2024, covering the usual catchment area of around 100 metres around the site. 32 letters were delivered to properties and businesses, as well as placed on any parked cars in the vicinity. No responses were received as part of the consultation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions? Then I'd like to move the motion that the subcommittee recommends that council approves items number 1 to 5. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Mitchell, is there any debate? I now put the motion, which has been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please say aye. Those against say no. I declare the motion carried. Thank you. Moving on to E, broken yellow lines, no stopping at all times, Farmer Crescent Service Lane, Taita, in page 37 of the agenda. Would you like to speak to this paper, please?
Thank you, Chair. This report seeks the approval of the installation of broken yellow lines, no stopping at all time restrictions between 48C and 56 Farmer Crescent, Kelson, as shown in Appendix 1 on page 40 of the report. A request was received by council officers from residents who had concerns around the ability of large vehicles to turn safely at this location when cars were parked in the turning area, as vehicles parked in this area create a high potential of crash risk for large turning vehicles. Council officers have visited the site and concluded that parked vehicles at this location do create an obstruction to the large vehicles. Additionally, the narrower width of Tinery Grove, which drops to around 5.5 metres, can hinder emergency vehicles accessing areas as well. This resulted in broken yellow lines being recommended in the turning space at the narrow section of the Grove. Consultation took place between the 26th of August to the 10th of September 2024, and 22 consultation letters were delivered to residents in the area. There was no feedback received. Happy to take any questions.
Before I pass it over to members, just a quick question from me. So my assumption is that residents here have got sufficient parking in their own driveways. Thank you. Officers, are there any questions? No, fairly standard paper. So I move the motion that the subcommittee recommends that council approves items number 1 to 4. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Dyer, is there any debate? Those in favour, I now put the motion, which has been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please say aye. Anyone against, say no. I declare the motion carried. Thank you. On to item number 7, Maru Streets for People. It's page 44 of the agenda. Would you like to speak to this paper, please?
Thank you, Chair. This report just provides an update on the Maru Streets for People project in Wainuiomata. Essentially, it covers where we're at with the project and feedback that has been received recently through surveys that have been conducted since the project was completed. And the intention is to leave the layout in place for the next 2 years. There may be some adjustments made to it as time goes on, depending on how it is used, what damage is or does occur on the site. And following that, we will undertake a survey to identify what's good and what's not good in that layout and ascertain what should be made permanent. This was discussed at the recent Wainuiomata Community Board. The board in general likes the intention of what Maru Streets for People is looking to achieve, but has voiced some concerns regarding the use of the flexible hit sticks, that they are getting knocked, and when they sort of sit redundant, they look quite untidy. We will be increasing the frequency that we undertake inspections of this area to get any damaged hit sticks repaired quickly. There is a round of repairs to be undertaken this Saturday to replace the hit sticks that have been hit to date. And if there are areas that are continually being hit, knocked, we would look to change the layout around those areas, which may mean the areas where it's been narrowed may have to be widened out slightly. The community board also raised concerns that have been raised by Konini School with respect to the behaviours around drop-off and pick-up time, with caregivers parking over broken yellow lines, blue lines and so forth, regardless of what they should be doing. We're working with parking enforcement to look to change some of the behaviours there. Happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions? Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, I've got a couple. Firstly, in the background, point 3 of the paper in the background, it talks about how speed limits in this area were reduced to 30 kilometres per hour, alongside all of these other changes that were made to the streets. Next year, we're going to have to change that speed limit and make that a variable speed limit, which means during most of the day, the speed limit will go back to 50. And I just wonder, with interventions like chicanes put on the roads, are they considered to still be appropriate on a 50-kilometre road?
Through you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Councillor. So we're actually at the Infrastructure and Regulatory Committee in the new year. We'll be updating on the speed reviews and the rule change from government. So at the moment, it seems a bit of a fait accompli that we will need to reverse to variable, but if you can make a decent case for safety, from our assessment so far, then schools such as this one, or areas such as this one in particular, where we've got traffic calming to try and increase the safety for everyone in the area, we might be able to make a case. So, but absolutely take your point on board. We'll have more of an idea in the new year.
And another question.
And then my other question was about the fact that this trial is going to stay in place for 2 years, and I think we're about 6 months into it, or since February. The monitoring and evaluation report, which is one of the appendixes, has some quite concerning statements in it. In the executive summary, for example, it talks about a large majority of participants felt that the changes had made driving in the area more difficult and less safe, and one of the streets, the speed and volume of traffic's actually gone up due to the interventions. And then there's another part on page 56, the community safety perceptions. Sorry, it's not that one. Oh, page 57, sorry, the community survey evaluation scores. There are statements in there about how, for example, 66% of people felt safe travelling through the project area in the previous survey, and that's now gone down to 37%. That's quite a big drop, and the student safety's gone down, our perception of safety at least. And in the last section, respondents expressed a general feeling that there was a lack of space for all users as a result of, there's quite a lot of negative feedback in this evaluation report. So how are we taking that feedback on board and making any changes if we can during that two-year period, rather than waiting right till the end of it to do what might be required?
Yeah, officers are working through this feedback. We had to present something that was, let's say, warts and all, to ensure council had full visibility of what was being said, and they are taking that with what has been put on site to better understand where we're going. We're working with the school, and we'll probably look to undertake another survey in time as well to see how people feel when they're actually living with this layout now. That survey was undertaken right towards the end of the completion of the physical works. So we need to enable a time for people to sort of live with the changes, to understand how they feel living with it as well.
Through you, Madam Chair, just to add to that, some of the language in the report we probably don't agree with, to be honest. But there's a few things in here. I think any time we are forcing vehicles to slow down, we're going to get quite a bit of negative backlash. So drivers do have to concentrate more because it's not as easy. That tied in with people slowing down during that area. So then as soon as they get out of it, they speed up, which is probably where that bit around the speed just past the area comes from. So there's some education and some analysis that needs to happen. But I think, and based on some of the students' feedback as well, there is a piece, Paul kind of just alluded to it there, where our road safety coordinator can go into the school and work with the school community, with the parents and teachers, but probably equally the parents and the caregivers and the drop-offs. So I think that's probably the next key focus area.
Are there any other questions? No. I think from me, there has been quite a bit of, it's been quite divided, this particular thing, for some reason. But I think if the intention is to bring down the speeds around schools, then I'm all for any regulations or whatever that achieve that. A lot of the comment has also been about the look and broken bollards, including vandalism of these things. They haven't always been hit by vehicles, messy planter boxes. I think if we can just make sure that we make the look, we tidy it up a lot and do it promptly and quickly, might be helpful for that community. But I think, yeah, we've got 2 years to get it sorted, and with some more consultation with the community as well would be much appreciated, including Wainuiamata Community Board. Right, I move the motion that the subcommittee receives the notes report. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Barrett. I now put the motion, which has been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please say aye. Those against say no. I declare the motion carried. Item number 8, Traffic Subcommittee Forward Program for 2024 and status update of approved traffic resolutions 2023 to 2024 on page 63 of the agenda. Would you like to speak to that, please, Paul?
Just with respect to the number of outstanding traffic resolutions, as you can see, the number is on its way down. There are now only eight that are incomplete within this year, so most likely they'll be from the previous traffic subcommittee, and a number that are with the contractors at the moment to implement. For a traffic resolution to be included here as complete, it's not just being completed on the ground, it is also requiring one of our officers to go out and visually cite those changes to make sure we are satisfied that it is complete. And obviously this comes down from, I think we had around 150 or so outstanding traffic resolutions previously. So there's been a bit of improvement there.
Good to see you ploughing through them. Any questions? Right, one question from me, just in regards to next year's work program. Milne Crescent is being brought to this committee to change the as-built plans, but not the broken yellow lines that are going to go on the corner. Is that correct?
There's a slight change to the broken yellow lines, a development on the corner. So we'll be implementing some of the broken yellow lines immediately from the previous resolution. And we will be bringing through a resolution just for some extension to the broken yellow lines that will be going in.
Thank you. And earlier we talked about bringing forward an item for February 25, and it's just escaped me which item that was. Delegation? Oh, delegation of broken yellow lines for discussion. Thank you. Right, I move the motion that subcommittee receives and notes the forward program for 2024 attached as Appendix 1 to the memorandum, and 2 notes the status update of approved traffic resolutions attached as Appendix 2 to the memorandum. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Dyer. I've now put the motion, which has been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please say aye. Those against say no. I declare the motion carried. Questions? I've received no questions. If you'd like to join me, before we do the closing formalities, I would like to, as this is the last meeting of this committee, just thank John, Paul, Evandro and all of your staff, Vanessa, for your support as well too. It seems a little bit early to be wishing everyone a very Merry Christmas, but it is the last meeting of this committee until February of next year. So thank you very much for your help. Closing formalities. Karakia whakamutanga. Please join me in karakia. Unahia, unahia. Unahia I turu apatapanui. Kia wantia, kia mama, tinako, te tinana, te wairua I te ara takatu. Koira e rongo whakarehia aki, kia runga, kia wantia, aira, kua wantia, hau pai marere. I declare the meeting